What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation, coming at you from the Petro 2 in Colby, Kansas. If you've ever been out this direction, it's that Petro that has the Qdoba in it, has a little Chinese restaurant in it, as well as some good shopping stuff. It's one of the better Petros, but this right here is the load that I'm taking home. And the pickup time on this was last night between 1900 and 2300, and I didn't get out of there till I think they were ready at 2 o'clock or 02. I didn't leave till 03. I figured I might as well wait to get that 7th hour in on that split. So that's when I left. It really didn't matter. Detention doesn't pay on this load for 4 hours, so I wasn't gonna get none anyway. So anyway, and if you know me, you know, well, first of all, this load doesn't drop off till Monday morning at 0200 in Denver. I am about 250 miles away, and it's Saturday, and it's about 3 p.m. So I'm gonna have a little chance to relax here a little bit. I'm not gonna go to the Denver drop yard and go home and do all that, because when I get in that home mode, I'm getting in that home mode. So I'm probably just going to drive to about 60 miles outside of the drop-off and just lay low till that next morning and deliver it. But what I wanted to talk about, I have somebody that watches my channel, and they were thinking about getting into trucking, and they were asking me the difference between Swift and Prime. So I have never worked at Swift, but I know some people that work at Swift, and so I'm just basing it on the information that I have. Now, first of all, when I talk about this, money is not going to really be a factor that I speak on in this, because I think quality of life, you know, has something to do with it, at least as far as what he was saying. So let's kind of get into it. So he said he lives in Texas, and, you know, he was concerned that he wasn't going to be able to get home as often as he'd like, and he wanted to go the company route. He didn't want to go lease. So my advice to him, you know, before we get into the advice I gave him, one thing that I have a pet peeve about is everybody posting these little pictures about Swift fails or talking about Swift backend, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that comes from Prime drivers. And this is one thing I'm going to tell you, is that I can only speculate, but I think that the average Swift driver with the exact amount of experience as a Prime driver probably can back a little bit better than the average Prime driver with relative experience. And the reason for that is, have you seen some of these docks these guys got to get into? You know, for the most part at Prime, we're dealing at the distribution level, things like that. We're not really backing into, you know, like your local Walmart or your local Target or your local Dollar Tree or any of these smaller kind of places that a lot of these Swift drivers are going into. Every now and then you have a challenging back, but for the most part we're not dealing with that as much. So along with that, before I get into what my advice was, the most impressive back I've seen on the road in my little short tenure in trucking was a Swift driver. So big ups to at least that Swift driver. I've never really seen a Swift driver embarrass itself personally, so does kind of irk me, especially when I hear it from people that haven't even got their license yet, or maybe they're going through training. But anyway, that's enough about that. So my advice to this person was, if I was in his situation with what was important to him, I would have chosen Swift. Now, I'm all about the ink, baby. Trust me on that. If you're thinking about coming to Prime, check out my recruiter. All the information is in the description below. But Prime is not for everybody, especially when you're talking about that company level. You know, one of the things that I know about Swift from the people that I know that have worked there is they have a lot of dedicated routes. So generally, and I'm not saying this is always the case, but generally with Prime on a company level, you're going to be working, you know, you get 1 day off per week. So let's say that's 4 days off per month. I'm not exactly sure how many days off you get at Swift a month or how they calculate that. But one thing I do know is they have a lot of those dedicated routes, and a lot of those dedicated routes in Texas. So one person that I know that works for Swift never leaves Texas. They're basically Texas, you know, they're basically just dedicated Texas. So if that's something that you want, Swift is perfect for that. And they have a lot of other dedicated routes. Now, Prime does have some dedicated routes, but just not to the same degree that that Swift does. So I don't know how much money, you know, I've never got into the money aspect or anything like that. But the people that I know that work at Swift are actually pretty happy with them. You know, one of the truckers that I actually met that came over to my house, I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description below, is a channel called 50 Plus Truckers Journey. Go check him out. He just got bit by a rattlesnake out in Laredo, Texas. He works for Milton right now, or Melton, excuse me. But anyway, he worked for Swift for a while, and he was kind of on a dedicated route that was kind of, I don't know if it was dedicated Colorado to Salt Lake City, but when he was on that run, he was making some decent money, and he was in Colorado more than I was in Colorado. So I think Swift, from that aspect, depending on where you live at, might have a few more dedicated freight lanes for you if you want to kind of just run through the house a little bit more. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna get into. Like I said, I really didn't get into the money with anybody that I talked to at Swift. I know that the people that I know at Swift, you know, kind of like it. As a matter of fact, the guy I was talking about, 50 Plus Truckers Journey, came over to my house. We had some nice steaks and everything like that. He was enjoying his time at Swift, and one of the reasons why he left was he has an end game, and that end game included becoming an owner operator on that flatbed side. So he left to go to Melton to kind of learn that side of the business. But anyway, outside of that, you know, if you're the average trucker running 48 states, all that kind of stuff, I highly recommend Prime. And if you really are about making that money and you got a little bit of business savvy to you and a little bit of drive, I cannot say enough about the Prime Inc. lease. You know, I've put out my numbers a few times, and either people didn't understand it or they think I was lying, so I'm kind of done with that. And if I told you how much money we were doing out here training, they definitely wouldn't be believing that. So if your heart's in the right place, you have some financial goals you want to meet, come on out to Prime, put in your time, and become a trainer. If you happen to be working somewhere else and are thinking about making a move, being a Prime Inc. lease trainer is definitely a way to stack up some dough. Now, don't come out here if you want to be some of these half-ass trainers that I've been hearing about. We got enough of those. We need somebody out here that's actually looking to train and reap the benefits of doing that. But anyway, that's about as simple as that's going to be. I'm going to get home here Monday sometime. I think my son went out and bought me a little surprise something for when I get home. So we're going to go live and kind of just discuss a bunch of different topics when I get back when I get back to the hacienda. But as always, I do appreciate you guys stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. Comment, subscribe, and I'm out.